Okay, fellow mathematicians, I need every eye on me. You have your marker out, still quickly put it away, set it down. So, the last few days we've been spending some time comparing fractions, saying which ones were larger, which ones were smaller. And some of you noticed on a few, you even had to make up little symbols, that some of them are equal or the same. And there's a word we use for that, even on the board, it's equivalent fractions. And we're going to be using a little tool to help us figure that out today. I'm going to get each table group just a stack of these papers. You can just keep them in the middle and just take one at a time as you need them. We're going to be making our own fraction strips to help us kind of compare fractions and see which ones are equal. As soon as you get your table group gets one stack, here's your very first step. You're going to get out a pencil. You're going to get one strip. Please wait till I say go. Wait till you have your paper so you get all these directions. And then you're going to write on one strip, you're just going to write one whole, nice big letters in pencil on one strip. You're not going to fold it. You're not going to do anything else with it. You're just going to write one whole. As soon as you have that, as soon as your strips, you may do that. Please do that with your voices off so you're ready to listen, ready for the next step. Make sure everyone in your table group is. They can reach them so they can each get one. I see Matthew writing with his voice off. He's getting the word one whole written on one strip. I noticed the orange table left their strips in the middle where everyone can reach them, and they're just reaching and taking one as they need one. Every eye's on me, every voice is off. Nathan's looking, listening. Beth's all eyes and ears. Anna's looking, listening. Here's our next step. The next thing we're going to do, when I say go, the one you look at first, is we're going to try and make a fraction strip for 1/2. Does anyone have a good strategy for how we can make sure that we get perfect halves? Please don't do it yet. How can we make sure we get this in perfect halves? Go ahead, Bailey.
We could fold it in half, crease it, and then when you open it, there's a little line, and you could draw a pencil over it.
Good. How can you make sure that it's folded perfectly in half, Nathan?
Like, put the quarters together.
Yeah, so line up the quarters. You'll fold it perfectly in half, crease it, and then just like Bailey says, open it. Then with your pencil, make a line on the crease, and then you're going to write in each unit fraction.
We've done this in the sciences class.
You're going to write 1/2 for each unit fraction. So pencil line on the crease and write 1/2. Again, please do this with your voices off so you're ready to listen for the next step, please. I think most of us are ready for the next step. We're going to get a little bit fancy here. we want to make a fraction strip for the unit fractions for our 1/4 or for fourths.
Oh, what about this?
Does anyone have a good strategy for how we can make?
What about thirds?
If you have something to say, you've got valuable ideas, I need you to raise your hand, please. Does anyone have an idea how we can make perfect fourths? How can we make sure they're perfectly even? Go ahead, Easton.
Well, do what we done with halves, and then do it in the middle of both of the strips, and then that would equal.
So if we divide a half and half, it makes a fourth. So try this. Everybody look up here. Easton suggested folding it in half just like we did. We lined up the edges and folded it in half.
Done.
So then we have 2 halves. And we're going to make those 2 halves perfectly in half by folding that in half, lining up our edges. And this is with a different strip. So this is your third strip. Then, when you open it up, you have 4 equal parts. Make a line on each crease, and then label each part 1/4.
And then fold it again.
Another one, fold it out. Half again. Keep it in half.
They're supposed to be. No, they are. That's how you do that.
Each square, look at Jason's station. Each square is 1/4. That's to get it. We did this another one already. Yeah. Instead of color paper, yeah.
Okay. Need everybody's eyes and ears up here one more time. So we're going to take a 4th strip. Please wait till I say go. Just look up here for now. We need to make 1/8. We know what a fraction bar with our unit fraction of 1/8. Does anyone have an idea of how we can do that and make sure that each 1/8 is perfectly equal? Jacob, thank you for raising your hand.
Well, you do the same thing you did before, so you just fold it in half again.
Okay, so we fold it in half. Line up edges. You can do these steps with me. Then we know that a half of a half, if we break a half into 2 equal parts, we'd have 4. So we're going to cut that in half, or fold it in half. Line up the edges. Now I have 4. But if I want to make 1/8, I need to fold that in half one more time. Now double check when you open it up again. You should have 8 equal parts. I would count them. Make a line on your crease and write 1/8 for each one. Here I am back in the comfort of my own home. And I had a chance to watch the video, which sort of eye-opening, watching myself teach, listening to your tone and watching my body language and things like that. And so some of the management things on display were a use of a attention signal to kind of get everyone looking and listening, behavioral narration, narrating the behavior of the kids who were doing what they were supposed to be doing rather than repeating directions, to try and get a few loose ends tied together, a few who weren't quite there with us to kind of tune in. And pretty regular use of proximity and working the room. That's why I disappeared from camera's view every now and then. There's sort of a central loop in the classroom that I can kind of make laps around to kind of be regularly close to different groups of students. So what you saw was just a pretty short burst of an hour and a half of math where we were working on equivalent fractions. And I found structuring math in a way to try and keep everyone engaged to be pretty tough, especially when we're going for an hour and a half. And so I really been experimenting with lots of different ways of
mixing things up, and that's been probably the biggest management challenge so far in math. And I've probably been through, I don't know, 4 or 5 different kind of structures or ways of structuring our time to try and keep things popping. And one I've sort of been experimenting with lately is we're doing about, sort of 20 minutes of fairly active whole group problem solving, and then we go from that into usually just a short kind of movement activity, whether it's quiz trade or some sort of like physical fraction sort or something up and moving around the room. Then we come back and do another 15-20 minutes of something whole group. Then we have enough adults in the room we're able to split into 4 small groups, and then come back and kind of do a whole group wrap up. And that seems to keep things active enough to kind of help keep things popping, and that has seemed to help with some of the management issues associated with just trying to keep kids tuned in. One thing that I noticed in the video that was something I need to work on is I asked kids to be working on those fraction strips with their voices off, and you probably noticed that that didn't happen. And truthfully, I suppose I didn't really mean it. It was okay with me if they were talking a little bit, if they're talking about their math and then collaborating a little bit and helping each other understand how to do it, as long as they're quiet enough that they could tune in and be ready to listen to the next step. But that sort of nuance is a little bit hard to communicate to 3rd graders, and that's something I should maybe work on in some way to communicate different voice levels that are acceptable, so there is a wider range between just, dead silence and pandemonium. And I think we struck that balance okay, but I was uncomfortable with the kind of inconsistency between what I kind of expected them to be doing, or said I expected them to be doing, and what actually happened. So that's something I need to think about and work on, and maybe can find ways to do in future lessons. I think that kind of sums up my gut reactions on watching the video, and I think I'll just stop it there.